So I think we're pretty much ready now. I think we're on time, and I think the structure today really is welcome everybody. As Yuriko was doing great work with getting everybody to introduce themselves, and this is a sort of a two-way sort of presentation really today around the opportunity that's arisen for a fully funded PhD covering repair cafes, and we'll split this into sort of two elements. One is I'll give you a bit of background for those who are less familiar with repair cafes, and Yuriko will give you a bit more about the sort of practicalities and issues around PhDs at UCA, and then we'll open it up for content, technical, whatever types of questions. Does that make sense for everybody? Suit everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, right. So, so officially, the first Repair Café started in around about 2009, 2010 in the Netherlands, was founded by Martine Posner, who was a journalist, and she, decided that she needed to take sort of practical actions around repair at a local level. And repair cafes are very interesting in that they sit at really, a sort of subdivision between circular economy that's much better known, and circular society. So we've got a societal element to this that is much less well considered. And again, this is a book that I did some time ago around circular economy, and and circular economy is generally around the sort of economics and products, etc., etc. Whereas obviously, when you talk about the difference between customers and citizens, citizens are, perhaps part of society, a slightly grey area in terms of economy. So there is this sort of Venn diagram where, repair cafes sit. And circular economy and circular society are really not about waste. They're about, value. It's really, adding more value back into the community and extending the life products. And what we have is out there in the sort of various areas, various people have produced various R's, and repair sits very nicely within, for example, the 10 R's. So it's really there, and it provides is a strategy to extend the life of products, materials, and components. And repair cafes are local community mechanisms to do that. And what we've seen really emerge over the last probably 10 years or so was this whole idea of the right to repair. The right to repair really actually oddly started in the US, particularly around the right to repair your car. As we saw more electronics move into cars, the right to repair your electronics. And we saw particularly initiatives emerge, and individuals driving this. A guy called Carl Vians, who set up something called iFixit, which is a mechanism and toolkit to help people essentially fix their products. Now that morphed across the Atlantic and was picked up in Germany and was then wedded into various policy initiatives from the European Commission. So the European Commission used that term, and DEFRA in the UK also use it, but less strongly than in Commission. And sort of behind this, over the last sort of 10 or so years, we've seen the emergence of more and more grassroots innovation, of people making, modifying, and fixing products, really coming from citizens and from the ground. And this has been embodied in terms of people talking about a second sort of level of maker cultures coming back, but also, from our work, it's not just about making, it's about modifying, and also repairing products. And that's been picked up in many, different forums. And there was even a sort of Maker Forum when Obama was in power in the US in the White House Gardens. So it's been picked up at, all sorts of different levels. And part of this whole idea that we've seen, particularly in terms of repair, is the emergence of YouTube and online videos has showed people more and more how to repair products, which of course is very difficult when you had sort of 10 manuals in 8 point. So physically showing people, how to repair products has been very important driver in this area. And what you've seen is more and more YouTube and other, tutorials emerging, not always great, but showing you how to do it. And this has been a very powerful driver to more activity. The second key part of this is new places and spaces that have emerged to enable making, modifying, hacking. Maker spacing, hacker spaces, and repair cafes. And hacker spaces are not necessarily, they emerged from the counterculture in the 60s. Some of this was around sort of hacking in the sense of computing, but also hacking means hacking products, changing the function of products. And for example, Dara O'Brien Science Club featured the hacking of a certain product, which I can't remember. But anyway, it's hit the mainstream. And many of course, we've seen in the UK, we've seen it's a slightly different thing, the mainstream, BBC Repair Shop program that's brought sort of repair to the fore. What we have now is over 3,000 repair cafes in the world. And that's an underestimate of these. This is just those that have signed up to the Repair Café International Foundation. And so this is, over 10 years, it's now become quite a significant group of civil society-driven initiatives looking to enable the repair of products. Vast majority of the repair cafes are in Europe. But we are seeing growth of repair cafes in North America and also in Australasia. So I don't have the figures up to the current date, but we've seen quite a growth over time. What we've also started to see, there's the Repair Café International Foundation, and originally this started as a national foundation in the Netherlands, have started to try and collect more data on activity and have set up a repair monitor to monitor activity going around the world, and are trying to get more organizations to participate in sharing their data. So one gets a better idea about what level of activity is going on around the world. What type of products are being repaired, what the overall repair rate is, etc., etc. So there's many levels one can sort of cut the data up. But for example, it's something whereas me as the Shutter Chair of Farnham Repair Cafe is we're getting more involved in this because we want to sort of measure what we're doing against the global developments. And so the whole issue of data and collecting and analyzing data and using data is becoming more of an issue. And the Repair Café International Foundation want to, raise awareness amongst stakeholders over repair. We've indeed at Farnham produced our own dashboard based on our own data, where we're able to sort of identify our own level of repair activity, what sort of products we've repaired across, this. So we're sitting on data that could be further cut and analysed. We've also participated, in 3 global Repair Café surveys. We did the first 2, and then we collaborated with University of Eindhoven on a third one. And this led to a publication, in a good quality journal where we, reported on the research from the repair cafes, and also another grassroots type initiative, which is about creating products from waste plastics. But I won't go into that today. But we had found some sort of interesting data that there, we good level of response rate. Mainly repair cafes are about with an environmental driver, but there is also issues around community concerns. Most will meet monthly in public spaces, and generally speaking, there'll be upwards of about 20 volunteers with maybe 10 to 30 customers. Concentration in Europe, as you highlighted, and many repair cafes share similar goals, but are not necessarily well connected. They're generally not about radical change. They're much more pragmatic. They're about problem solving. They're about solving faulty products and providing solutions back to citizens. There's little evidence of a political voice of repair cafes, although Repair Café International Foundation do get involved in policy discussions, particularly into Europe. So they're essentially very pragmatic initiatives. And somebody who's been in the sort of sustainability area since really the late 80s and know the difficulty of moving forward environmental initiatives, it's often like pushing a rock up an isosceles triangle. What I found in founding and running, being a driver in a repair cafe, but also doing the research, is repair cafes work because citizens get a benefit from it. So it's a direct benefit. You're saving products from going to landfill and your product starts to work again. So essentially, they're very practical, very pragmatic initiatives. Some repair cafes, do engage in slightly more, potentially political lobbying, but that is not the general focus. Generally speaking, particularly if you look at Germany and the Netherlands, there are broader regional networks. This is from that survey of 303 respondents. UK numbers there back in 2019 show no national network, for example, which is still true because somebody has to drive it and set it up. But also relatively high engagement in regional networks, which I find quite surprising. That is now emerging. There are more regional networks emerging, critical mass of people, whereby you maybe have a repair cafe in one town, connecting up with another town. And so you are starting to see these emergences of these other networks. What you have seen also is some countries really driving repair cafes. So Wales have actually put central government money into facilitating a whole network of over 100 repair cafes across towns and villages across Wales. And indeed, Wales in the UK is actually driving a lot of circular economy activity ahead of UK. So they're also at a national level starting to collect data on, number of items fixed, emission savings, etc., etc. There are these regional initiatives that are set up, and this is I set up a network based on the activity we've done in Farnham, where we've brought together sort of identified 15 to 30, I forget the number now, repair cafes in the local area. And very pragmatically, once a month, we get together, share knowledge and experience. So there are these networks emerging and approaches to actually expand knowledge with new organizations. Also, very interestingly, in a joint Repair Cafe webinar, the third Repair Cafe webinar we organized with the Repair Cafe International Foundation, we found interesting that HP in Boise in Idaho set the first company-based Repair Cafe. I thought that was going to be more about raising awareness of staff in terms of repair skills because policy is emerging globally. But what came out of that, it was much more of a community-based initiative. So it's their part of their community engagement around their facility in Boise. And essentially, the response is there, we're very, again, reinforcing this very practical aspect of repair cafes. So again, repair cafes sitting somewhere between the economic side of the product, something on the societal aspects. And these are some of the sort of key words when we asked about the strength of, our repair cafe, but this is fairly typical. Community comes out. A survey we did of sort of classically your 100 customers, is we found that to the Farnham Repair Cafe is that people generally were motivated to go into the repair cafe on the hope that they would get a product repaired, and they would come out, generally speaking, with a product repaired. In our instance, about 67% of the time. The general figure is about 63% of the time. But what they didn't come in with, but they came out with, is this tremendous sense of community, like-minded people working in the community to, tackle real problems and create immediate-term environmental impact basis. Again, this is just our repair cafe. Quite a lot of activity. We've set it up as an impact organization. And a lot of repair cafes, as I mentioned, now are starting to collect more and more data. Again, illustrating this community aspect, just again, in the Farnham Repair Cafe example as a case study, we now have a sort of page in the residents' guide each year, so in a sense, the town council give us a page in 16 pages in the guide that goes out to all residents. So they see us now as part of the community. So again, this environmental and community aspects. And just in closing, a couple of other pieces of food for thought. We went out and asked UK repair cafes, of which there is now, again, somebody may choose to research this. Slightly unclear if there's 200, 300 repair cafes now in the UK, but we did a survey, got a sample back of 63. And these were sort of some of the key issues that were important to repair cafes. Now, what's clear from my experience on this is this is an average figure, whereas you see a figure there on a practical level for repair cafes. One of the biggest issues for repair cafes when they set up is gaining insurance. So that comes at number 8 in the ranking. Whereas you ask that question to startup repair cafes, that would be number 1. So again, there's something here about the issues in relation to the maturity of the repair cafe. I won't go through the detail of this, but this is just, I brought this as another illustration of the potential research routes that people might look at. Given the amazing skills and knowledge that sit within the repair cafes, those 3,000 repair cafes around the world, and maybe 300 in the UK, for example, you've got people generally who have a lifetime of experience, particularly in small electrical items, who've actually worked on making, vacuum cleaners, toasters, etc., etc. And they're now often in early retirement or in retirement now, looking at how they can repair those products. They know a lot about products. And then in going through the repair process, they're building a lot of knowledge about the common errors, the solutions to extend the life of products. And I very simply here, for a conference I was speaking at, I went out to the repairers, just a very quick question to our ones, saying, what design improvements might you suggest in facilitating the repair of small electrical items? And I got very quickly 20 very, very good ideas there. So what I suppose I'm saying there is the amazing potential knowledge that is sitting there within repairers about the repair of products that, again, could be further researched. And what I've sort of just dropped off here before passing, of course, to Yuriko is just a few areas that these are just potential areas. These are not specific areas. So people who decide they might want to put in an application, are welcome to come up with their own ideas. But some of the ideas, just as food for thought, is we are seeing new policy developments, particularly in Brussels, that are looking to drive more repair and more circularity of products. As that legislation has passed, and implemented, which may take some time at a national level. What is going to be the impact of Repair Café on Repair Café? What is going to be the impact of that legislation on repair cafes? So it may be that actually for some of that legislation really to bite on the repair of laptops, actually it may take 5 to 10 years for companies to integrate in design for repairability, and then for products to come to the end of their first life and then start to come into repair cover. So there may be a lagged effect in terms of that. We very, very rarely see products that are designed for repairability. As per a chat I did once, somebody coined it very well. Most products are designed for death. They are not designed to be easy to repair or dismantleable, etc., etc. So that is the reality of what we see. So there might be another survey of a global survey of repair cafes with an exploration of further developments. How might repair cafes and the movement, and indeed big question mark in our last discussions with our Dutch sociologists, who was indeed, is it a movement? Are they disparate sets of these pragmatic initiatives? So there's a lot of questions. So looking into the future there, looking at comparison maybe between Dutch repair cafes, German repair cafes, and US repair cafes. Are the differences, the difference in regions? What lessons could be drawn from repair data for product designers? Could we look at the history, of repair cafes, from various perspectives, and again look into the future? Could there be a more macro analysis of the role of repair cafes in a circular society or a circular economy? What might that be, and how might one articulate that? Might one, consider, the development of a common reporting mechanism for repair cafes? At the moment, it's very difficult at this moment in time to transform, for example, our data at Farnham Repair Cafe into the data set for the Repair Cafe International Fund, because it's been set up in a different way. So could there be a project, where we brought in the Repair Cafe International Foundation to look to, simplify that or do this in some way? Or could we somehow use AI to speed up things? Could there be the development of a tool to look at carbon emissions and societal benefits associated with repair? We've developed a tool to do that, but could that be improved? Could that be further developed? Et cetera, et cetera. So what I do is I will stop sharing my screen and I'll pass across to Yuriko. I don't know, actually, Yuriko, whether it'd be good to just go straight into your presentation or to see if there's any immediate term sort of content questions, or shall we just go ahead?
Let's do questions first, Martin, for you.
Okay. So anybody got any questions? Anybody got any observations? Did what I say make sense? Because I know a number of people are either involved in local initiatives or involved in repair cafes. Are there things that you observed that I didn't talk about, or things that is emerging from your experience that are sort of particularly interesting that either you or you feel that might benefit further analysis? So I see Keith's hand's gone up.
Hi, yes, thanks very much for that presentation. Yes, I helped to run Canterbury Repair Cafe, We've been running since 2020 and restarted after COVID in 2022. For the last 2 years, we've been running every month. There has been some thought about we sort of rent a room on a monthly basis, so we don't have much, although we have now got a storage space. But I think another possible activity of repair cafes, or a kind of related activity, is storing goods, perhaps for a library of things. So things that people use very occasionally, or whether perhaps that's kind of related to what repair cafes do, to try and reduce the number of things that are made or manufactured. You know, we use a motor mower once every 2 weeks, perhaps a hedge trimmer 2 or 3 times a year. It's just ridiculous that every single house with a garden, they have to have all these separate bits of kit, which are very rarely used. So some kind of library of things. It's kind of related to the general ethos of what people are trying to do. Another issue is obviously storing big tools that you might need to do repairs. So workbenches and sewing machines, and moving on to bigger tools like lathes or drill stands or whatever. So that's something we don't have at the moment. We don't have enough space or the facilities to store that kind of equipment. So all our repairers have to carry all their tools and any little bits and bobs like screws and nails and bits of thread or needles for whatever they're doing, whatever repair they're doing. They have to bring it in each time and take it back home again. So that's another issue that's related.
Okay, I'll try and avoid going into the detail of running repair cafes, because I sort of can do that. So yeah, I recognise a number of things that you were saying. I mean, certainly what you're seeing is you do get discrete repair cafes set up. You do see some repair cafes spinning off out of things like library of things, maker spaces. So you do get some sort of hybrid activities in places. And indeed, what you're saying is, there is, let's say, broader issues associated with building the capacity of repair cafes. Very practical issues like, do you have storage space? Do you have to take, do tools come in and tools go away? So there's a lot of very practical capacity issues there that I certainly recognise. And those can change over time as one grows. Where you start is not where you finish. So absolutely, these are all interesting research areas. I saw something pop up around emotional attachment. Absolutely, this is something we've seen, products coming in, products being repaired, and people, bursting out crying because it's repaired a memory, a connection to a family member, the sort of stuff you see on the repair shop. And then I see that Peter's hand up, and then Katerina's hand is up.
Yeah, thank you. I echo a lot of what Keith said there, and finding a premises was the first thing, and insurance is. But I'm really pleased you put up those prompts for ideas for research, because I'd thought about a few of those, but you're happy if we were to put forward a different one as well, if we've got our own ideas? Okay, good. I try and dabble with 3D printing as well, so I think there's a great relationship there. Yeah.
I mean, again, I'll just give you a very practical one on that. So it is an area. So we invested in a 3D printer, and on the basis was about looking at doing customized repairs, and essentially we've done that. But a key thing that emerged was this. I don't know if you recognize this show and tell element of it. You're showing the 3D. Yeah, okay. So I can see why you're smiling. So we had a brilliant guy who set it all up, and he understood all the CAD systems and set it all up. And then he was very happy to showcase it, and then people to come up particularly young kids to see it. They're really fascinated. And as part of that sort of a process, even then some of the other repairers got interested and started to see it. But he moved to Scotland after Brexit.
Yeah.
We lost the skills. Some guys have built the skills, but they don't really want to do the show and tell. So they're almost keeping the product at home and doing very specific. So 3D printing it's a big area. Also, places like the Netherlands and Delft University in the Netherlands, they've done a lot of work around 3D printing, and some of our broader stuff with Repair Café. There are Germany and the Netherlands. There's been a lot more work done around 3D printing in repair cafes. So anyway, yes, that is an emerging area, and there's plenty to explore in that area.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, Katerina?
Hi, hello. Can you hear me? I have to say that because I'm on a call. Thank you. I've been running a repair cafe in Penarth. We opened up in 2018, and we run it monthly like other colleagues. We hire a hall. But one of the, Martin, you had asked any other interesting things that we have thought about, and mine would be what I'm very excited about every month is the use of people's skills, and I think that people do benefit enormously from the community aspect, but also feeling that their contribution is still useful and valid. And I think that people really enjoy coming into the cafe to use their skills and offer their skills to the community, but also working in collaboration with others. And this is mainly a set of people who are a bit older, might be at the end of their working life, but still feel they have something to contribute. And I think that that element is very interesting, and certainly one that we really enjoy encouraging.
All of those things I recognize, and that those are all very interesting, areas for research. We've certainly seen one of the things I've recognized sort of generally, and it needs to be more researched and understanding of this, is just the amazing skills that are sitting in there in the communities, that things like repair cafes just help draw people out because they're very practical. Just the sheer fact that you have amazing people with amazing skills that still want to do stuff and contribute to stuff. So this has been a very big learning for me. Also, that you mentioned about collaboration. And again, I had a sort of a skewed mindset that people, I'm not an engineer by background, but essentially that engineers were very, generally speaking, logical problem solvers. So they'd have a problem, they'd solve the problem, and that sort of, more of their creativity was in problem solving creativity. But I've absolutely seen some much more lateral repair solutions coming out of engineers so it's busted my own thinking about creativity. So there's something about thinking there, and absolutely this issue of collaboration, very important. People getting together to share knowledge and experience, again, very worthy of much more research. Is that a new hand, Keith, or an old legacy hand?
It's a new hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Keep thinking of questions. Yeah, picking up on that last point you made, I did have another question, but firstly, just picking up on that point about people wanting to help other people. I mean, I think that's a whole, I don't know if you'd put that in your list of possible research areas, but the kind of psychology of it and the sociology and
exactly
how, people just love helping other people, and they're happy to do it for nothing. And the community building is amazing, people getting to know other people and just getting enormous pleasure from helping other people, and probably more pleasure from the person doing the repair than the person who's the customer, as it were. So that's a kind of whole nother area of psychology
I definitely recognise that, and absolutely that could be a big area for
I mean, that
reason.
could be the entire focus of a PhD, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Another area is organizational aspects. I mean, we in Canterbury have a very loose structure. We don't have any formal structure, and as a result, I bear a lot of the work on my shoulders in terms of organizing and chasing up repairers every month and seeing who's going to be there and that kind of thing. So it's kind of a lot of work for me. If I fell down dead tomorrow, then people would have to pick up the pieces somehow. So it'd be interesting to see what alternative structures people have, whether they've formed charities or community interest companies, or and I learned yesterday that community interest companies can have a problem in getting funds, raising funds, that they're, because the directors of a community interest company can take payment, the charities, people giving to things like repair cafes are less likely to want to give money to CIC than if it's registered as a charity. So looking at that whole kind of the alternative organizational structures that could possibly exist around.
Definitely another area in the...
And another kind of related aspect is whether there's much experience of kind of having a group of repair cafes in a particular location. It sounds like you may have that in Farnham, but whether you can have maybe a paid person who coordinates the repair cafes and they're all run individually by volunteers, perhaps an alternative.
Yeah, just responding quickly to your points. I think absolutely that's another area of study, organizational models. I mean, we set up as the first UK charity. Others have followed. There are other structures in other countries. There are some number running without organizational models, or part of transition town initiatives, or part of Rotary initiatives. So that whole structure, of organization, the role of the founder driver, which I recognize very well from what you're talking about, the role of your core group, all of those elements, absolutely, well worth, a good opportunity to study. What I'm thinking about as time is ticking on, and maybe let's pass across to Yoriko to highlight some of the key aspects of the process and the structure of PhDs at UCA.
Thanks, Martin. And yes, I've got to go to another meeting in 20 minutes, so I'll have a quick chat now with you all and answer any questions before I go. I mean, this is such an important topic, and I think that there's one studentship allocated to this project, but if everyone puts in interesting applications, we might consider it for one of the open studentship or a few waivers, and there might be potential down the road for getting other funding for people to work with us, with Martin in particular. So please do submit your applications. I'm going to put in the chat, I hope this works, a brochure that I've put together. I'm sorry it's not very attractive, but it's got all the information you'll need in it. It's there in the chat. Please let me know if it doesn't work, and there might be another way I can transfer it over. That's got information that's also on our website, but essentially if you what is helpful and more inclusive about our application process is that you don't need to have a full-blown research proposal that's all worked out before you apply. What we ask for on the application form is a copy of your CV, a writing sample of at least 3,000 words. That's just to demonstrate that you can write. We're not assessing the content, and it doesn't get graded. It's just a kind of a hurdle, as well as a 2-minute interview that's recorded and either sent to us if you want to put it on a private platform, or as an unlisted video on YouTube. That's also relatively easy. The instructions and directions are all there on the online form. And in the video, we just want to see a quick description of what your motivation is, perhaps what your work experience is, and some thoughts about your research idea. Instead of a full-blown research proposal, if you already have one, that's fine. You can attach that as your writing sample. But if you don't already have that worked out, then we ask for a 300 to 500 word research idea. And that's something that you can discuss further with our interview panel. And then also we support people to develop that over the course of the first few months while you're with us. So there's quite a lot of support in terms of teaching and skills development and so on. Deadlines. We've got for this studentship, the deadline for the application is the 10th of April. If you don't need funding and you'd still like to work with Martin or others at UCA on one of these project proposals, please put an application in. The extended deadline for general applications is June the 10th. So that's April the 10th for this studentship and June the 10th otherwise, if you want to come in to start with us in October. There's lots of other detail I could give you in terms of what we offer in support, where you would live and so on, but a lot of that's detailed on the brochure. Don't want to bore you all. Perhaps it might be good to pause and take questions if anyone has any. Katerina, is that a
Hi, hello. Sorry, I'm just trying to think and read what you've posted in the PDF. And you sort of, I was just trying to understand whether or not you could undertake the PhD part-time. I don't know how many colleagues on the call are currently in employment, or whether they would, so for me, I do work full-time, but obviously this interests me quite a lot. So, but I would have to obviously have lots of conversations and think about, but first of all, ask you if you would consider a longer period of time than the 3 years.
Absolutely. So first of all, lots of things happen over the course of a PhD. So we've got provision for taking interruptions and there's mitigating circumstances and so on. There's also a fourth, if you're doing the course full-time, there is a fourth writing up here that you can apply to do on much lower fees. If you're on the studentship, it doesn't matter so much, but they're much reduced fees with reduced supervision. The idea being that you're spending that fourth year simply writing up, typing up your text and so on. For students are part-time, so that's very common, and that would be double the time. The intake is all at the same time, so start full-time and part-time students all start in one cohort in October, and that's really helpful because it lets you get a chance to know everyone before you all go on your separate ways. And the training happens at the doctoral school in Canterbury. So we recommend that people, particularly if they're not local, if you're local, you've got your family and your networks and so on, but particularly for people coming from overseas, we recommend that you're based here, at least in the first year, so that you have access to all of the support and facilities here. We've got a lovely space with desks and so on.
Sorry, so I'm just going to ask you recommend it, but is it something that is flexible?
Yes, absolutely. It's flexible, and lots of people, I mean, if you're working with Martin, he's based in Farnham, so it would probably make more sense to move over there in the second and third years. In any case, if you're part-time and you're working and you've got kids and so on, lots of people live all over the country. That's not it's not a given that they're here, but we found that the student satisfaction has been much higher when they're here with us.
To add, in terms of at least the current PhDs that I'm supervising, I think this will tackle a couple of the questions. The vast majority of our supervisory meetings are done online, and we get together occasionally, but and we have a part-time PhD who's doing it over the 5-year time, who's very busy on his day-to-day job, but manages to sort of fit it in. So there is, correct me if I'm wrong, even within the new system, some degree of flexibility Yuriko, around sort of, particularly for our types of PhDs, rather than maybe the artistic type of PhDs that UCA offer, for people to sort of fit it around their working lives.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely. The only thing that's not negotiable is face-to-face attendance at our teaching module, and that took place on a number of days in October and November, December last year. I'm looking to, it was tricky for some people, particularly those working full-time, to travel to Canterbury and stay overnight to attend just one day a week, one afternoon a week. So I'm looking to make that more intensive so that there might be 2 days together in the autumn and then another 2 days in the spring. But you'll get
Mhm.
notice of that well in advance so that you can take time off work to come and attend.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Half our PhDs are practice-based, also more than half. I don't know, Martin, whether you're accepting practice-based applications.
Really even thought about what that might mean in terms of repair cafes. So I think there's plenty of food for thought across sort of many areas. So I'm a believer in where one can keep it simple. But if people do have very creative ideas about, somehow, monitoring repair activity, I don't know. I just have to create a practice-based idea. But if people have ideas, we would certainly look at them.
Yeah, we've got one student who's about to graduate, who looked at the emotional and psychological impact of repairing old clothes, meaningful clothes. And she ran a series of public engagement exercises, teaching people how to repair clothes and then producing, poetic fragments out of them and so on. So I'm assuming that kind of thing might fall within the scope of what you're proposing. Yes, are there any other questions? Katerina, your hand's still up. I'm not sure.
Oh, sorry, that's only because I haven't I haven't taken it down. Apologies. I'll just try and do that. I'm trying to read the brochure. Is there any way that you could email it to us? Because I
will email it to Martin to send out.
Yeah, no, I can
Great,
just
great.
download it from the chat and then we'll circulate to
Great,
those
thank you.
expressing
Sorry,
interest.
that's why
Yeah.
I haven't closed my.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to. Yeah,
But it's also all on our website.
great.
And I'm very happy to speak with any of you in person if you want to pop down here or online. I'm wondering what else might be important information to convey. The deadline is the main one. After the deadline passes, I mean, as soon as you submit, we are looking at applications on a rolling basis. So as soon as you submit, a week or two later, you should get an invitation to interview if you're accepted, or a letter declining your application. And then if you're invited to interview, that will take place either in May, if you apply in April for the April round, or if you apply after April the 10th, you will be interviewed in early July.
Maybe just another thought.
Thank you very much.
Another thought, Yuriko, and please feel free to comment on this, is that I guess the fully funded Vice Chancellor Scholarship we've targeted this around repair cafes and at the centre or UVET or with linkages, but separately, if you have other ideas, that broadly around, circular economy, repair of other sorts of things, or the link to product design or something, whilst there wouldn't be the full scholarship, there may be other avenues that we could look at to help facilitate a PhD.
Yes.
If you had a very specific topic area that you wanted to propose, essentially, all good quality proposals we'll have a look at.
Yes, there are different kinds of funding, aren't there? And Martin's very good with this, so finding different pots here and there. In terms of the Catherine, you've asked what the annual scholarship is. It should be online. I'm not sure what the exact figure is, but the fee waiver. So there are different levels of scholarship. I believe that we charge our fee in order to be inclusive. Our fee for a full-time or part-time PhD is on the lower end compared to other creative arts universities. And that's been a kind of political decision that's been made. If you accept and enroll early, I gather that there is a discount or they call it scholarship, but basically a discount as an incentive for taking up that place early on. And then if you are successful in getting the studentship, that is a full fee waiver plus a stipend. And that's set at it's just an industry rate. I think that's a normal rate that's common across universities in the UK. And then if you are successful in getting a fee waiver, because we've got 1 or 2 open categories which we allocate to the best proposals. If you get a fee waiver, that's just a self-explanatory fee waiver. And you'd still need to pay for or find money to pay the tuition fee, to pay for your living expenses on top of that. I gather that there is also a government PhD loan scheme if you're local. If you are a staff member at UCA, there is a scholarship as well. There's a discount. Martin, you're muted, I think.
Couple of other questions. There was, I think, one of which is Yoriko's highlighted it. The PhD doesn't, in that sense, has to be done sitting at a desk at a UCA campus, but there are specific requirements, on the teaching and sort of introductory elements that Yoriko had mentioned. Having worked in academia, a part-time PhD is even harder work than full-time. Thoughts? I don't know. I mean, my part-time PhD is a little bit unusual in that he's already got 1 PhD, but he also works in a sort of high-level think tank. So he's got a lot of pressure on his time, but he's still managed to, write 25,000 words for his interim thing where he's required to write 15,000. So I think the answer is with your thoughts question mark, probably not necessarily. It's probably down to discipline, managing your own time over a longer period of time, not leaving it all up to and your supervisors can help you manage and plan that out.
I think for people who have kids at home and a full-time job, it can be tricky to work alongside a full-time, alongside a part-time PhD.
So Tina, your question is, so having a PhD ready is not a barrier? No. I mean, I wouldn't have thought so. The fact that you've actually gone through the, let's call it, the rigor and journey, let's say, that is all very helpful. I mean, in my example, the guy did his PhD in an entirely different area. So I think, if you have advanced research knowledge and skills, that could only be a benefit in doing a PhD.
So much of it is just time management and discipline and focus and research skills, isn't it? So you've done the hard bit.